More than $650 million has been donated on ActBlue, the small dollar fundraising platform for Democratic candidates, just since the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on September 18th, which was just 3 weeks ago. $650 million raised in 3 weeks. It's no surprise that Mitch McConnell is complaining that Republican Senate candidates are being financially overwhelmed because of Democratic small dollar contributions. I'm joined now by Zerlina Maxwell, co-host of Signal Boost on SiriusXM Radio, and the host, of course, of the new show Zerlina on the Peacock streaming service. And with me is María Urbina. She's the National Political Director and Chief of Staff of the progressive group Indivisible. It's great to have you both. Zerlina, I want to get your response to that McConnell quote, because I felt, there was such profound grief and despair 3 weeks ago on Friday night when we learned of the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, both personal despair and grief over her passing and also what it meant for the country. And people were like, what can I do? And they have, one thing they've done is given a lot of money through ActBlue that has actually materially changed the playing field of the Senate races.
Yeah, I think what's happening in this Trump era, and especially since the beginning of COVID, is everybody, maybe they have more time or they feel more a sense of urgency to try to get involved to change the current state of things. And I think the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg really got a lot of people shook to the core because the future is at stake. You have Donald Trump engaging in, violent rhetoric and emboldening white supremacists. Also, you have a raging pandemic, but you also have a situation where America's demographics are shifting wildly away from a majority white electorate to an electorate that is black and brown. And I think that one of the things Mitch McConnell understands that Democrats are, I guess, quickly understanding as well, is that, why they want to put Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court so quickly is because they do not have the majority of the electorate going forward. And in certain states now, they're already struggling. So I think this is trying to enshrine, their power in the courts because they don't have it in the electorate.
Maria, when Indivisible was started right after Trump's election as a means of sort of channeling people's anger and angst and desire to oppose what Trump stood for and what he was doing in concrete ways, when people come to you and they're like, after, say, the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or as they watch the COVID crisis get worse 7 months in and say, what can I do? What is your answer for them?
Well, Chris, it's a great question. And what's really exciting to us is that certainly there's nothing like creating action around deadlines. Certainly there's always going to be a last minute push around fundraising. They're important metrics. The day that Justice Ginsburg's vacancy happened, we broke a record. 500,000 voters were contacted in one day through our voter contact program. So the enthusiasm metric is very accurate from our perspective. But we launched this program 9 months ago because we knew there was a growing energy around holding Republicans accountable in the Senate and making sure that the McConnell majority was no more. So this is something that we've seen. I think something that I'm noticing and I'm really excited about is that indivisibles across this country have been priming rural districts, suburban districts, and growing the blue reach that we have now in areas that we just hadn't seen progressive infrastructure before. So we're exactly right for the opportunities we're seeing in this expanded Senate map.
Well, and one of the things, Zerlina, that we've learned, I think, over the last 10 years particularly, is how much these sort of national political environments rise and fall together. And so when you have a very unpopular incumbent and the country in objectively terrible shape, you start to see competitive races pop up in places you wouldn't expect, Alaska being one of them. The other one that I was just looking at today is Kansas. This is a new poll out today. This is the Democratic challenger, Barbara Bollier, is at 55%, and State Senator Roger Marshall is at 42%, 45 to 42%. That's in Kansas, where there is a Democratic governor. That's suddenly a competitive race.
Look, I think the Democrats looked at the slate of things especially after 2018 and the success in places that they were not successful in 2016. And they looked at it as a template for how to win in those places in the future. You actually have to try. And you also have to invest early. So what I think is smart in terms of what I'm seeing in the late stages here, this week very much felt like Access Hollywood week in the destabilizing nature of it. Yep. And so anything can happen in the next couple of weeks. But I think Democrats are smart to make sure they have their base as the foundation, and they're reaching out and investing in these new areas to try to get a majority in the Senate, because they know that is going to be necessary to get anything done. And the things that Joe Biden is promising that activists have been fighting for can't get done without the legislative votes in place.
Yeah, a McConnell Senate is a disaster. I mean, McConnell Senate is a disaster. We've seen what a McConnell Senate does. And I wonder, Maria, like, you know, heads have been spun around so much. There's a combination of anxiety. The one thing, and tell me if you think this is right, I don't see a lot of complacency among people in the sort of broad pro-democracy, anti-Trump coalition in America right now. Is that your sense?
Absolutely. I mean, our volunteer shifts are increasing every week. We are so excited. And I would say not only are we not complacent, we are doing everything possible to grow our phone banking. So if your viewers tonight are watching these polls and they're cautious and they want to figure out how they can really make the most of these opportunities, and that come on over and continue to help us reach millions of voters, because none of us can afford to take anything for granted, even as we continue to see in terms of, I was going to say a steady race, in that we're continuing to see Democrats make gains and hold their gains across the map. Yep. And so we welcome everyone to come join us. You know, I'm an organizer, so I have to make an organizing pitch to your viewers who are tuning in and following the polls at 2020.indivisible.org.
I'm the son and brother of organizers, so I understand.
So you got it. I had to come on and make an ask, Chris.
I was an organizer. That's how I started.
They're the best. Selena Maxwell, Maria Urbina, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. This is